Hey, my friends, welcome back to an episode of Storytellers and Wild Creatives. I am your host, Sage Adderley, and y'all, I am trying to keep it cool. I am trying to ground myself as I'm with my extra special guest today, who needs no introduction really, except that her name is Leonie Dawson. But I'm gonna give you the what I can say without mumbling it up. So Leonie is an international bestseller. She is an artist, a creative badass. She's generated 14 million in revenue in her business. She's won a shit ton of awards for just being her epic self. And I get to talk to her today about some really important things that are always on my heart. Oh, hey, Leonie, welcome.
Sage, you're friggin' delicious. Absolutely delicious. I love that I get to turn up to the friendship party, like when I get to finally meet people who know my work. And I'm like, oh, like now it's my chance to fall in love with you, and it's just delicious.
Let's just do that. Okay,
Okay.
fine.
All right. Let's
So
consummate.
I've already confessed to Leonie who she's been to me in my life. And I want to just share that, I've at least 10 years without exaggerating, probably even like 12 or more, that I have followed Leonie online and started off with your workbooks and then made my way into the academy. And the reason that I adore Leonie so much is the way that she takes a stand for the rest of us weirdos. The way that she takes a stand for us to be our authentic selves. And that's the first thing that I want to ask you, Leonie, is have you always been someone who has felt like this is who I am and I'm showing up unapologetically? Or do you feel like it was an evolution to get to this place?
I think it was a bit of an evolution, but it began quite young. So I remember one, like I've never really worked out the whole social dynamics of stuff. And like that's probably partly to do with autism, having autism. And but I remember when I was like 14 and I was like, oh, I see everyone's trying so hard to be popular. And then I looked at the people who were popular and they kind of just seemed miserable because they weren't actually who they really were anyway. They were just so busy trying to stay popular.
Right.
And I'm like, well, even the ones who've won in this situation still aren't happy. And so instead of like trying for people to like me, um, and being this sort of facade of who I am and still being miserable, what I could do is just like keep on being me and like just wholeheartedly embrace that. And I will have the best freaking time ever because I'll get to be with my own best self, which is me. And if anyone likes that along the way, cool. If they don't, it doesn't matter. I've still got my own friendship. And that was a really beautiful turning point for me. And then I think as well, like as soon as like I got to be out of a school environment, I was like, all right, cool, let's just like go hell for leather on this.
Yeah, I love that. That's so real. It's much better to be ourselves, and we're going to attract the people we're meant to. So, what do you say to the woman who's like, I want to break free of this box that not usually I find that people aren't even putting themselves in the boxes. It's just the way that society is, and whether that's how people were raised or friendships, they end up in this box that they don't really want to be in. Who wants to be in a
Mm.
damn box? So, what do you say to the woman that wants to show up authentically, but is totally terrified of the judgment of others?
Mm. Just fuck them. Like, who cares, really? Like, doesn't really matter. Like, if you're having fun and you're being yourself, great. And if they are cool with that, like, they're just basic bitches and it's boring. So, not for us. Not for
Not for
us.
us. We have no
Yeah.
time for that stuff.
No.
No
Like,
time.
if somebody, like, the amount of times I've been called weird or asked what I'm on or whatever, it's like, cool, thank you for letting me know, like, not to put any energy into this situation because, yeah, not for me either, babes. Not for me either.
Yeah.
And but you know what? Like, I have to, like, I'm not dearth of friends. I have more people clamoring to be my friend than I have the time or energy for. Um, like I have to beat people back with a stick who want to be my friend. You know what I mean? Like they're just in a big line and I love them all for it. But will I get through them this lifetime? No, no.
Right, right.
So I think all in all, it's been well worth the investment.
I I would say so. I would
Yeah.
say so. So, okay, correct me if I'm wrong. Did you make the decision to leave social media for, was it 2 years? Did you leave for 2 years? So, I would love to talk about that because what I find is that I've got a love-hate relationship with social media. And I feel like my pendulum swings way far. Like either I'm like, "Oh, this is horrible. I don't want to be on here. It's sucking my energy. I don't like who I am anymore," which is weird because I do like who I am. Or I'm just like in this doom scroll of like reels. And so I I've witnessed you like step out, and I'm just wondering, what was that choice of stepping out from the social media?
Yeah, like honestly, it's just the one that everyone goes through of just like, this sucks. Like, I am over this. I hate what this is doing to me. And I've decided just to do it as a 21-day trial, just like an experiment. And I felt really anxious about doing it. I was like, oh, I'm going to miss out on so much and
Right.
whatever else. And within a few days of that 21 days, I was like, oh, this is incredibly brain healing. And I don't think I can just stop at 21 days. And I thought I would take off like, then I was like, right, well, how am I going to manage this with the business? And so we thought we'll just take 3 months off, see how that goes. And then 3 months went by. I'm like, no, still pretty solid. And I didn't really expect to go back. It was just that I wanted to start creating and sharing in different ways. I wanted to do more, like create more in like video stuff. And when I looked at it, I was like, well, the platforms to kind of do that are sort of social media-ish. And so it took me a while to go, right, okay, well, how do I want to do this in a way that still feels really good and sane to me, while honoring my needs for creativity and not having my brain just like polluted with everybody else's voices. So I have some really, really strong rules in place. And when people go, oh, you're back on social media, I kind of forget that I'm back on social media because I've got all these systems in place. So I'm actually not on social media. I just batch create a whole bunch of content. It's all scheduled. I don't actually look at my social media at all.
So, would you share some of the healthy boundaries that you set for yourself? Um,
Yeah, so I don't have Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or any, I don't have any social media apps on my phone.
yeah,
It's not something that I use for like just sitting and scrolling.
yeah.
Um, I usually have them also blocked on my computer so
Mhm.
that I use like block site and I can unblock them, but then I reblock them again. And it's just to stop that compulsion to like always just go check as soon as something's uncomfortable to, go get a sweet little dopamine hit from Facebook. Um, I think just having more of a kind of a strategic approach and not being in there, responding to everything. I have an assistant a VA who like, monitors comments
Yeah.
and direct messages and stuff, which is enormously helpful. Um, and batch creating content for it. And also like giving myself the permission that if I want to fuck it off at any time, I shall.
Yes, for sure, for sure. So sometimes social media can feel like a void, and where you're screaming into it and it's like, is anybody hearing me? Do they see me? What suggestions or wisdom do you have around, I'm talking specifically maybe around writers, artists, business owners, like how do we create a presence on social media and get heard in the midst of all the chaos that it kind of feels like sometimes?
Well, I probably would say like the first thing to do is not even think about marketing with social media. I think it's marketing as a whole, because the best part about my going off social media experiment was re-remembering how critical and important other marketing methods are that aren't about social media,
Yeah.
and how much that those other marketing methods can create much faster results with much less time investment and much less of the sanity suck. So
Yeah.
um, there is genuinely thousands of ways to grow your business without social media, and social media is often like not always the best one to do it, and you can get better results in other ways. So depending on what industry you're in and which clients you're after, and also your skill set, you may find instead that it is better for you to really work on gathering testimonials
Mhm.
and case studies and referrals, so that whenever you work with a client, you're really encouraging them to share about your work with other people who are, looking for somebody like you. Search engine optimization may be really, really useful, especially if you service a local area. That can be absolutely massive. Um, and being a part of masterminds can be really useful, networking groups, and actually committing to be a part of that. That can make a much, much bigger difference than just being on social media. And I think people forget, like they're like, oh, I've got to do marketing. Okay, that means more social media. No, 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 no. Like, let's instead have a look from a whole where you can get much better results. It's sort of like I have a friend who's a hairdresser, and I was like, how, she just started a new salon. I was like, how's business? And she's like, it sucks. Like, I'm doing so bad. I don't know if I could pay rent. And I was like, okay, what are you doing for marketing? And she's like, I'm doing a social media post every single day. And I said, okay, cool. What are you doing differently to improve that? She's like, I think I might do 2 a day. And I was like, no, let's not. What we want to
Right.
do is, you are in a certain area that a lot of people work in. What if you just did a flyer drop and was like, hey, business neighbor, like, I've just moved to the neighborhood. I can cut your hair on lunch breaks, or whenever fits in around your schedule. You don't have to leave the suburb to get your haircut done. And because we're like business neighbors, I'll give you 20 bucks off your first haircut. And she was like, oh, that actually sounds pretty solid. And that's exactly what she did it. She did it and like pulled it off in a week, just went and like dropped them all in, like went in to say hello, gave them the flyer, all that kind of stuff. And I saw her 2 weeks later. I was like, how did it go? And she's like, incredible, fully booked, fully booked, you
Amazing.
know?
Yeah,
So having a little bit more clarity around like some ways that you could do it differently can actually create much bigger results for you.
for sure. So it's not getting stuck in this idea that I have to be on social media. Like it's a have to. It's reimagining what marketing looks like for you, is what I hear you say.
Mhm.
I mean, there's so many ways, and we're creative people. We could come up with a
Yes.
variety of ways.
Yes. It's so exciting.
Yeah, I mean, really, like, and I mean, okay, one of the things that you also speak into that I'm just like, yes, thank you, is not having to have a niche.
Mm.
And I was watching a video that you did, and you were like, that is so boring. The idea of doing the same thing. And I would love to hear, like, when you talk about what you do, how do you say it in such a way where you're not getting like pigeonholed into a niche?
You know what? Like, I'm just somebody who's decided to opt out of elevator pitches. So when somebody in real life asks me what I do, I usually tell them I'm a porn star, or that I talk shit on the internet. Just whatever. Who cares? If they manage to Google me, great. I don't care. I really don't care.
So it's almost like we just need to like bottle up Leonie energy and just be like, this is a moment that I don't need to give a shit. I'm just gonna uncork this bottle of Leonie.
Yeah, and like if somebody's like really like they've just been bitching to me about their business or whatever,
Yeah.
like that it's going badly or whatever, I'll go, oh yeah, like I can't teach about business and marketing on the internet if you want to check me out, but otherwise I don't really, whatever, cool. Nice to see you. Bye.
I feel like my biggest takeaway so far is to give less shits.
Yeah. Yeah, like there's only a certain amount that you can give,
Right.
and like if you give less of them, then all the more fucks to keep for yourself. And it's so nice.
Yeah. So, Leonie, I'd love to hear how you take good care of yourself. Like, how do you take great care of your overall well-being?
So I have a bunch of rules in place kind of thing because oh, in fact, just feeling a little bit more horizontal. So I'll just do that right now.
Yes.
I'm sick of standing up. Let's retreat to the bed. So I have rules for life, and if I don't do them, I can start turning into a bit more of a burnout or a bit more of a grump.
Yeah.
So that for me is I have some really strong boundaries around work. So I only work about 10 hours a week anyway. And um, I just want to make sure that I keep enough space in my days for life, for life, for comfort, for care, for gentleness. I don't want to be somebody who says they're busy. Busyness is not for me. I don't work at all on weekends. And then on weekend afternoons, I'm a mum, I've got two kids, and something that I realized really early on is that if I don't have downtime every single weekend, and that's a few hours in the afternoon where I just retreat to my bed and I read books, or I art journal, or I do e-courses, or whatever fills my well, um, I'm really grumpy. Like I just need some solid alone time in a week. And so my kids can just do whatever. They can do whatever. And when they were like toddlers and things like that, um, you know, my husband was around to, for them to do things. And then occasionally, they'd still need to come to me, and they could come for a cuddle in bed or whatever. But they just sort of got into the habit of recognizing that mum is not always the first point of call. And mums often can be, even when the dads are fully present and fully there. Like just, I don't know, the boob owner seems to be the one that they're
Right.
most drawn
True.
to. Yeah.
Yeah.
So um, yeah, so like having that, and even now, like my kids are so used to it. Like if I get like a little bit crabby, they immediately say like, "Oh, is it time for a little lay down and read a book in bed, mum?" Like,
Yes.
isn't like all those books are calling your name, mum? And so it's like they see that it's a part of the healthy ecosystem that mum looks after herself, so she's not just a real bitch. And they also have a nickname for when I am turning into a bit of a bitch. So they call me Sharon when I'm getting crotchety, like, and like start getting into a bit of a cleaning mood and
Yeah.
convinced that everybody should be helping me with the cleaning. They're like, oh, Sharon's here, run and hide, everyone. Um,
That's so good.
it's so great. It's so good. And I love it. I love what they can like kind of make fun of me in that way. Like I could never imagine her making fun of my mum when she was in a mood like that. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
And
yeah. Never.
yeah,
No.
but I can go, yeah, Sharon is here. All right. I'll try and just de-Sharonify.
Sharon needs a nap.
That's right. Sharon needs a good book of smut, doesn't
That
she?
right,
Yeah.
right. But
Yeah.
I love how you're modeling to them the importance of rest and the
Mhm.
importance of taking time for yourself, because I think that is one of the societal things that we witness what our parents are doing, and then we take that on. That, oh, that's how we have to show up too.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I definitely, you know, bless my mom and my grandmothers, I didn't see them as being women at rest or women enjoying themselves. They were working crazy hard and wouldn't sit down, kind of thing. And like, I get that that was what they felt like they needed to do at those points in time, with the options they had, but it's something that I didn't want to continue crafting for myself at all. I want my kids to see me really embracing that level of self-care. Plus, I have just like a big list of no things, as in like, no, I don't really travel for work. No, I don't. go to conferences very often. No, I mean, I could probably count on one hand the amount of conferences I've ever been to for business or
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
Um, no, I don't just like have like a lot of meetings or cups of coffee or Zoom calls where people just want to pick my brain. Like it's
Yeah.
not for me. I have 2 hours a week where I have interviews, um, and then the rest of the week is free. And then every fourth week of the month is Golden Week, where I have no scheduled appointments whatsoever.
I love that it's called Golden Week.
Mm.
That makes it
Hmm.
sound extra magical just for you, the Golden Week.
Just the week where I just get to create or just lay in bed and think about things.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think that's when the magic is happening, not when we're constantly in the doing, but when we're stepping away and having our own time to be. And did you always feel this way, or did you just get burnt out? And then you're like, fuck that, I'm gonna do something different because this doesn't work and that's not how I want to live my life.
Yeah, no, I definitely like it's those rules are born from burnout.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
because when I was first starting my business, and I was still working for the Australian government, and so I was just like, okay, well, I want to do more and things are getting busier. So the only thing I can do is just more hours, more hours. And so I would be sleeping less and, staying up later and waking up earlier and just trying to cram everything into every piece of hour that I had available. Um, and I remember at one point it was such a just clarifying factor for me because I went to bed at like midnight and woke up at 5 a.m. And for me, I'm not somebody who functions on 5 hours of sleep. I'm somebody who needs 9 hours of sleep. Sleep is a very important factor in my self-care. Um, so I was like, right, okay, well, I've got so much to do. I'll just wake up earlier. And I was, so exhausted already because I've just been working so much, but I wanted to get more hours of work in my business before I went to work at 7 a.m. Um, and so I got up and I was like, okay, I'll just go outside and I'll meditate for 100 breaths, tick that off my list. There's my self-care done for the day.
Done.
Right. And so I was like, um, outside and did the 100 meditation, 100 breaths, and then I went to stand up and collapsed and fell on the ground and my face was in the dirt and I couldn't move. I couldn't move my arms because I was just so exhausted. And I just thought to myself, like, oh, well, I thought I did say I wanted to get more grounded. And so like here's this like dirt all up my face and just um and then I thought, okay, back to bed. Like this is not going to work like this. Like just
Yeah.
falling over from exhaustion and
Yeah.
ending up like face planted and not being able to get up is a really stupid way to do things, Leonie.
Oh,
So that was a really good defining factor. And also discovering that for me, like there's definitely an economic cost of burnout as well. Like if I kept on like burning myself out to the point where I, couldn't run my business for a month,
mhm.
then I'd work out like, well, that's like at that point, it was about, I don't know, $6,000 or something that I was missing out on if I couldn't run my business. And I was like, right, so anything I can do that's less than $6,000 is a good investment to prevent that burnout.
Yes.
Any of those rules I can have is a very good investment. So knowing that economic cost
Mhm.
is really useful. And for me now, of course, the economic cost is much higher than that. So I have, a whole bunch of things that are built in that might cost me money, but it's a good burnout preventer. So some of those like things I invest in is I have a private Pilates like class every single week, just me and an instructor, which is really useful. Um, and I go in like to the smoothie store every single day and I buy my $12 smoothie every single day.
Yep.
But yeah, and I'm like, and I was like, I'm kind of still a frugal person. So part of me goes like, oh, I could just be making that at home. And I'm like, but I won't.
Yeah.
And let's just get some like good protein, some good like
Yeah.
banana shit in my system to keep me going. So that really helps. And then like I definitely like went into the same thing when I had kids, is I was like, oh, okay, I'll just work harder. And you know, that really doesn't work. You just end
Right.
up with crippling postnatal depression and anxiety. So
Yeah.
again, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's real. So I would love if you didn't mind sharing about your new program that's coming up. I am around the ADHD. What is it called? Remind
Oh,
me.
ADHD and ASD, biz and productivity success.
Yeah. Would you talk about that? I would love to hear more about that.
Sure. For me, I um I'm late diagnosed ADHD and autistic. And but for me, it's been about 10 years since I found out about the autism and less since I found out ADHD. It's 4 years, I think. Um, and neuro discovering my neurodivergence was just, it was like unlocking, I don't know, the key to understanding myself on a whole other level. It reframed everything. And then also realizing like a lot of like business and productivity advice actually just doesn't apply to me as a neurodivergent person. And I've always been pretty open about my journey with like diagnosis and sharing about how it's affected me and also what's helped me along the way in terms of like, staying out of burnout, staying in
Yeah.
creative mode, staying productive and being strategic, all those kinds of things. And I just discovered that like more and more with my monthly coaching calls with clients, because I do a monthly coaching call with all of my students and in the academy, and more the questions were becoming about, okay, I just got diagnosed.
Mhm.
Like, how do I do all the things? And so more of my time was being spent in answering those questions. And I was like, you know what? It'll be great just to do a program about this, a workshop, so that when people ask me, I'm like, I have all the perfect things for you to help you on this path. And I can answer it so much better in a course than I can um, just in like, 5 minutes on a coaching call. So it's really just to help people uh, understand who they are and really appreciate the gifts of it. Because I think everybody knows like the challenges of it.
Yeah.
And for me personally, my experience has been when I over-identify with the challenges, they actually become that much harder.
Mhm.
And when I start looking at it through the lens of what a gift this is and how I can work best with it
Yeah.
to like really turbocharge those gifts, that is a much better experience for me personally.
Yeah.
And I get that everyone has their own different experiences, but I wanted to share like what really, really works for me and what like has created a massive benefit in my life, and offer it up and I hope that it just can really positively impact people so they can just go full into themselves and
Yeah.
do it in their own way. I think like my neurodivergence is absolutely the reason why I've created a business that is unconventionally successful in that, I have created, $14 million in revenue, but I'm doing that while only working 10 hours a week with a micro team of people and not being the person who's on a plane to America 4 times a year or things like that. Like that's just not how I've done things. I've done things in a way that honors who I am and my strengths, without trying to pigeonhole me into doing business in a way that other people do.
Yeah. And I mean, I think you that's exactly how you show up for me. And what I see in you is you do things your way, but not in this like, you do it in a way of honoring who you are and your overall well-being. And I feel like I don't know what happens to us when we choose otherwise. I don't know if it's the fear of doing things differently, I know fear shows up in so many different ways, but I love that you model that, yeah, this isn't traditionally what we're being taught or how we see things happen, but this is how I'm choosing to do it, which I think is amazing. And I hear so many of the women in my community talk about, like, I think I have ADHD. Like, I've been reading about it, and I think I've had it my whole life. And it's so interesting to me. Like, I'm 45 and I'm hearing more and more women my age talk about how they think that, oh, wait, I think that I should probably go get a diagnosis. And so, you know, do you feel like getting, and I know this is just your personal opinion and not like a medical opinion, but do you feel like it's really serving that you got the diagnosis versus just doing your own research and going, yeah, I fit that like a glove?
Ooh, so the only benefit to diagnosis really, well, two benefits. One is if you've got ADHD, you
Mhm.
then can access medication, which you can't
Got it.
otherwise. And secondly, it may like bring up like if you've got multiple, oh, what's happening here? This is I'm sorry.
You're like, hey, resources. We're
Whoa, this is really
I mean, we
changed
said we were
my
gonna
life.
party. We said we were having like a party. We had the celebratory energy. Why doesn't mine do that? Like I'm ready for balloons. Okay,
I'm ready for, I
fine.
don't even know. Okay, we'll carry on and maybe it'll happen again.
We're making all sorts of
It's whatever we can do to trigger whatever that fucking thing was again. Um, yeah, like the other benefit is like possibly like recognizing if there's something else happening. So I wasn't aware that I had ADHD. It was just in my autism diagnosis when I finally went through it. That she was like, oh, hey, you've got really low executive functioning. Like could possibly be ADHD, but like they couldn't really they weren't an ADHD diagnostic service, but she was just pointing to my working memory levels. So that was really useful. However, like there's obviously some downsides to it as well, in that um, one, if you are looking at moving countries, at a certain point, you may actually not be able to if you have a diagnosis for autism or ADHD. In Australia, I have heard of somebody who wasn't able to receive medication because, like, when she went for a medical thing, um, because she has autism, and so they decided that she couldn't actually make decisions for herself, which is horrifyingly rude.
Wow,
Um,
yeah,
so there's definitely like some possible disadvantages to it as well. But overall, I think it
yeah,
can be a benefit. Also, like recognizing that a lot of medical professionals are not with the times. And so if you just ask your therapist or just ask your doctor, they may not know shit. And they may also not know shit if you are a woman. Because it's like as with most things, the diagnostic process looked centers on young white boys
yeah.
and not how it actually appears for females.
Yeah. No, that makes 100% sense because I'm noticing that as I'm experiencing perimenopausal symptoms. And then I ask my doctor and they're just like, maybe that's what, and I'm just like, well, it's been such a journey. Like I've spent the last 2 years like going to different doctors, and one woman physician, she looked a little bit younger than me, and she said, "Well, I haven't gone through that yet, so I don't know." And I was like, "That is the most horrifying answer." I'm like, "Well, that's cool, and that doesn't really serve me." I know it's yeah,
But so, like, has she had cancer? Has she had dementia? Like,
that's
how else does she know about the things?
it it just it's it feels so dismissive to just have someone go, nah, well, there's no test for it. I've gotten that one several times. Well, there's no test for it. So you could be or you couldn't be. So I can completely understand this other side of what you're talking about. I mean, what the fuck? Like,
There's no test for it.
there's no
Invent the fucking test, motherfuckers.
I want to be like, so what are y'all doing? What are you doing back there? It's been
I mean,
a
it's only something 51% of the population is going to go through.
and it's mind-boggling because it's a natural part of our life cycle. It's
Uh-huh.
like we're all, we're gonna experience this, and it's just, yeah. I'm just sitting here just being like about it, a little salty. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I love the saltiness. We could just be salty together.
Mm. Next podcast. We're salty today. Oh God. I I want to know, what are the things that you want to talk about that you don't get asked about?
Oh, I don't fucking know. I don't care. I don't, I don't ever care. Just
You
whatever happens.
you're so amazing. Like you're so just like go with the flow, like here I am.
Yeah. If something occurs to me that I haven't talked about, I'm gonna be like, oh, I wonder if somebody will ask me this. Like, no, I'll just fucking talk about it. Like, I'm not like the pretty princess waiting for the prince to be like, ask me to the ball. I'm at the ball, motherfuckers. I am the ball.
Damn it. I know. I know you're the ball. I know. That's kind of like how I feel when somebody tells me, when I get worked up about not having a niche, because I think that's such garbage. And when somebody's like, stay in your lane, I'm like, those are fighting words to tell me to stay in my lane. I'm like, I got a highway. I got a highway with multiple lanes, and I can show up and do whatever I want to do that I am passionate about. Do not tell me to stay in my lane. That's my like, don't tell me to stay in my lane.
What is a lane? The whole world is my lane, fuckers. I can go wherever I want.
I just saying, like, next book quote, the whole world is my lane, motherfuckers.
Yeah. Just like here, there, everywhere, anywhere I want to go. No, I'm gonna go. Are you a Scorpio?
No, I'm a Leo Virgo cusp.
Oh, perfect. I love that. I love that perfect, like that little combination of Leo Virgo cusp, actually. I've got a few friends on the Leo Virgo
Yeah.
cusp, and there's a special magic that comes from it.
I have all fire in my like moon, rising, and sun. And when I
Oh.
found that out, I was like, that explains so much. I
Mm.
was like, oh my God, that
Mm.
explains so much. I wish my younger self understood that. Because I spent so much time trying to like simmer down. I'd be super passionate about all the things. And I finally had one friend who was like, can you just own like that about you? And that's what I mean, that's one of the things that I've mentioned 500 times already. Why I love you is because you you don't have you own who you are, but you feel zero need to explain yourself, which you have no reason to. But I feel like we live in a world where that's not the norm. So many people are like, I'm in my box and I'm terrified to come out and be who I am or use my voice because I'm going to be judged or people won't understand me. And I feel like I'm willing to pay that price of someone not liking me, or because it's not really that much of a price, really. I mean, it's not. So I would rather just show up and have someone either like me for who I am or obviously don't like me for who I am. So yeah, I
You
really
know what? I always get so confused when people are like, you're just so unapologetically you. And I'm like, am I supposed to be apologizing
no,
for
no.
who I am? Like, it doesn't make any fucking sense to me, Sage. I don't get it. Why on earth would anyone be created in order to then just go, oh, sorry. Sorry for existing in this particular form. Sorry, sorry. So, oh God, I know this is a mess, this whole divine creation that is me.
Don't
I
look
know
at
it's
me.
like taken billions of years of evolution for me to like appear in this very particular constellation of cells, but sorry, sorry. It's like a fucking tree. Is a tree out there going, oh, don't look. I'm just not worthy. Like, it's the dumbest. fucking shit I've ever heard. It's the worst invention of humankind ever.
I
No,
know.
thank you. Not for me.
I know. And I know, right? Like everything you're saying, I feel and is so spot on. And but when I venture out with other humans and I hear what they're saying, and I'm like, they're so because people say, like, oh, you are just yourself. And then I feel the same way. But then I look at you and I'm like, oh my God, Leonie's like times 10 to me. She just gives zero fucks. And so then you're like, you I know is what I'm saying. I know, and I don't know why. I don't know why. I don't know who
Mm,
started that bullshit that we are not
mm,
supposed to like show up and shine our bright lights. Like, I don't know. And I think it's so sad.
mm, mm.
And you're
Yeah,
like,
I
I
just
don't
like,
have the secret formula. I just show up this way.
yeah, I think like all we need to do is just like keep looking at the animal world because we are part of the animal world. And like I often talk about the zebra because like the zebra is not out there going like, oh, if only one of my stripes was just a little bit skinnier or just in a different wave, then I would be worthy. Like the zebra's not thinking that. The zebra's like,
Look
look
at
at
me.
me. I'm out in the sun. I'm eating this grass. Best life ever, motherfucking zebra. Like every single zebra is just like having a choice life. And I was like, that's all I need to be. It's just like enjoy the grass, enjoy the patch of sun, and we're solid. Like, I don't have to spend any time second guessing who I am or how I'm made or anything like that. I can just go, well, this is how it is. So it's freaking brilliant. And I think like it genuinely helped as well. What an enormous blessing it was. My brother was born with cerebral palsy
Mhm.
and was a part of the disability community. He worked in on a disability farm and he competed in disabled sports as well. And getting to be around him and all his friends
Mhm.
um, was such a brilliant, life affirming process. And, all of them were so hilarious and brilliant and wise because they would just be so unapologetically themselves and be like, okay, well, this is how I am. So I'll just make the most of it. And whatever like their level of disability, they're like, okay, all right, let's just go hard with this. And my brother would love sports and would complain that he didn't have more of a significant disability because in different sports, you get like in disability sports, you can be categorized compared to your ability. And he's like, well, if I was just in a wheelchair, I could be competing in this and this and this. But two functioning legs. All right, let's just make this work.
That is amazing.
Yeah, it was such a massive, massive blessing.
Yeah.
And then, like, the other part of the blessing of my brother is that he died when I was 14 in an accident. And so, really early on, I saw this very, had this life-altering grief and recognized, like, oh, you actually don't get any um assurance of how much time you're going to have here. So you might as well just like live the absolute fuck out of it.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. And I had my husband pass away when I was 40.
Oh my
And
lord.
it, I felt like that where I was like, why do I ever get upset about shit or get so afraid about things? Like, you are going to be gone in just seconds and then it's over. And it's
Mhm.
like, we don't have any guarantee about any kind of time. Um, yeah. So I'm sitting here like listening, you going, yeah. Like how I felt like I did a little backslide where you get like in this position of like, I'm not gonna be upset about anything and I'm gonna live it up. And then I felt myself like backslide into being semi-human again.
Mm.
Where you
Yeah.
do, yeah. And so being with you is also reminding me, it's like lighting that fire back up of like life is now and like rules
Mm.
rules do not apply unless we choose to follow them, right?
Mm,
Like nothing that anyone creates or society or whoever the fuck is creating all these rules. Like when people say I want to do things the right way or make the right choice, and I'm like, by whose standards? Like who wrote the book on the right choice? I'm
mm.
confused. Could you lend me a copy? I need to read about this. Like, who wrote that? And when I ask people who say things like that, like, well, I want to make a good choice or I want to make the right choice. And I'm like, well, based on what is the right choice? And
Mm.
then they start thinking about it and going, well, I don't know. I don't know where it started. And it's like we're mindlessly following this thing about making right choices. I don't want to make the wrong choice. And I'm just like, who the fuck created that?
I love that. I love that. That's so useful. And like the thing is, like I forget all the time. Like I totally backslide because it's part of being human.
Yeah.
And like for me, like my trigger point is like trying to work out like my kids' schooling and working out like the right school and the right like location and stuff like that. And it feels like this enormous weight. And I keep on thinking to myself, like, what if, just what if we took it a little bit more lightly, like didn't feel this enormous burden.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I like it makes like I feel so like burdened by the heaviness of trying to make decisions for stuff and trying to like prophecy into the future, whether it's going to be work out or not. Um, and I think of like my grandmother who died when she was 97 and um, how at a certain point, like you're just like, well, I've just had enough of worrying now, and like I'm ready to go because I've had enough of worrying. And I was like, I don't want to be waiting to die so I don't have to worry anymore.
Right? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a
That's
fucking big one, right? And it's like the
heavy. Yeah.
work of a lifetime to try and work that one out.
Yeah. That's a lot. We're not going to do that.
No, not at all. Like, not at all. Like, yeah. Yeah. I just don't want to like have that heaviness of like, oh, now I'll finally be relieved of like worrying about all this shit.
No. 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 We get to
Mm,
live and experience the freedom,
mm,
the freedom to be who we get to be. And yeah,
mm.
you've really dished out a lot to think about, I feel like. Even though I feel like you also are like, I don't know why everybody asked me this. And I'm rolling up here going, hey, I know you've been asked 6,000 times, but one more.
Okay, so my husband is like he's very like I adore him and he's such a like he's so blunt as well. Like he can just say things as they are, and I'm very grateful for it. Um, we've been together for 20 something years, 23 years, I think. Um, he said to me once, like, hey, hun, like, I know that when, in your work environment, when you talk, people listen and they think what you're saying is just so important, and that's great. But for the rest of us in real life, actually, we're not.
That is fantastic.
I know. I know.
I mean,
I know. And it was because I'd like tried to talk to his parents about something, and I thought, I can talk really well about something and like thought I'd give him a pep talk. Went down like a lead balloon.
he's like, not in all the spaces, not in all the spaces. I love that. My daughter, she's 20 and she said I was acting like super goofy and I'm like doing whatever and she's like I should record you right now and share it with your community. See what they think. I'm like they'd fucking love it. They would love it.
That's right.
I'm like they'd appreciate that I act like this everywhere in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So don't
I
threaten
don't have,
me.
that's right. I don't have a professional aura. It's fine.
uh this is like Leonie, she is the ball. I am the highway. I have no lane.
I am the world. I am Gaia.
Welcome. I feel like I just broke through some chains, Leonie. I feel
Mm.
like
Kids are like the best though. Like they just like, and also like they can just bring stuff up for things to be healed in a really hilarious way.
yeah.
So, for example, I changed my middle name when I got married because I was like, well, I wanted to change my last name anyway. And I was like, I've never liked my middle name. I'll just change it.
Yeah.
And it was Gail, and it just never felt like the right fit for me. Just like they got Leonie right. Like, yay, parents, well done. That is my name. That's my soul name. Hooray. Gail, yuck. Um, and like that is like not to diss any of the gals out there. It's just not my energy
Right.
whatsoever. Um, and and I was also named like after some family members and stuff like that who I don't have a super close relationship with, and two family members who have that who share that name, and so I decided to change it by default. And my daughter was 12, and I told her this, and like that I'd changed my middle name, and this is 10 years after the fact or whatever. And she's like, oh, okay, what was your middle name? And I was like, Gail. And she's like, oh, amazing. I love that mother Gail. And I was like, oh, okay. And so it's 2 years now, and she never calls me anything except for the name I hated so much that I changed it by default. And she's got all of her friends to call me Mrs. Gale. So it's Mother Gale and Mrs. Gale. And it's so fucking hilarious. Like, I can't be angry about it.
No.
Like, there's just this, in some ways, it's like a reclamation of it, like,
Little did you know. She
would she have done
resurrected
this if
that.
I didn't change my name? No, absolutely not.
Wow. That is
Yeah,
so great.
yeah, yeah.
Kids are
And
so
so like,
great.
their parents get confused like at school because they're like, oh, Mrs. Gale? No, no,
Mother Gail.
not Mother Gale. That's Mrs. G. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Carry on. Call me whatever you like. Great.
Call me whatever you like. That's so good. That's
I
so
know.
good.
I know. My kids are just hilarious. I'm so lucky.
Yeah, for sure. I laugh because sometimes my kids are such a reflection of me that I'm like, I can't even get mad at you because you're just me.
Right? Right?
I'm like, don't say that, but that was hilarious. But really,
Right? They're so good. They're so great. Like there's
yeah.
every delicious part of them. And I've got one kid who's very passionate, very determined, very excited about a lot of things, a little bit forgetful, like a little bit clumsy. And, I'll be like every single night when I go to put her to bed, I'm like, okay, it's time to finish drawing now, because she's always in bed drawing away or reading. And she's like, just one more page. No, I can't finish it. So I literally have to like take the pencils out of her little goblin hands for her to go to bed. And I'm like, oh, this is parenting me now. I see, I see, I see.
This happens. This is real. Like we see evidence of like, oh, that's a reflection of me.
Mm,
Oh, I see now. Yeah. I
mm,
feel like the older I get and the older they get, I get very humbled.
yeah,
Witnessing. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And like we have like two kids, and one of them looks like my husband and really similar personality and really similar brain in a lot of ways. And then my other kid it's just like there's just like two little carbon copies of each parent, and it's quite obvious.
Yeah.
And like also the fact that their brain works in a similar way and the similar sense of humor. And it's like,
I
and I feel like it's an opportunity for me to love my husband more in another way.
that's beautiful.
Mm,
That is so beautiful.
mm. And like parent in a way that we weren't parented,
Yeah.
and hope like fuck it works out.
Yes, I yeah. I show up pretty transparent with I mean my kids are older, Like my youngest will be 15 this summer. And so, I work real hard to be the best that I can be. And also, my parents may not have taught me how to parent in a way that I want to, but they taught me how not to parent. And
Mm,
so I look at it that way instead of like approaching it the way that I was approached, going, well, that didn't work or that didn't feel well. So let's come from this angle. And, I mean, I think they are the things in my life that keep me the most real. Like,
mm,
well, it's a wild ride to parent other little humans. I grew up
mm.
with big humans to go to college and it's weird.
So weird. How many do you have?
I have three. I have three
Oh,
kids. Yeah,
oh,
it's wild. From 15 to 23. Almost.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
I want to ask all the questions about
right.
your
It's
whole parenting journey and everything.
I mean, it just shifts into another weird level. It's like a video game. It's like you up level and then it's like, oh, so we beat those challenges, but there's new ones.
Hmm. It's like when you go up, like, when you're like just farting around a Mario Kart, just doing the 100cc, and then you go up to 200 and you're like, what the fuck?
Whoa, whoa, wait. Like Rainbow, is it Rainbow Road?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Every time I'm just going off like in outer space. Like there she
yeah.
goes.
Where am I? Why?
I can't stop. I know. It's wild.
Yeah. Yeah. No, crazy, crazy. We could talk for hours, but unfortunately I have to go and parent my children and get them back to school.
Gotta go be an adult. Fine.
Ew.
Fine.
Ew. We've had 2 weeks break over Easter, and so it's like the first day back of school today. And so we'll have to go find all the uniforms and stuff and remember that we have to pack lunches and oh,
Whatever.
whatever.
I
Whatever.
am absolutely grateful that you spent the last hour with all of us, me, the listeners. Like, thank you so much for keeping it real and being you, even though I know you're like, fuck, who else am I going to be?
I don't have anyone else back then. There's no other like personalities I can drag out of the closet and put on me like a
Look,
terrible clown suit.
I know, but I feel the need to say it out loud. So thank you. And I'm putting in all of like the links for folks to go find you and see you and explore your website. And it's really been such a joy. You're rad.
Sage, you're fucking 10 out of 10. I'm gonna like go to peoplereview.com after this and just like 5 stars. No notes, no changes.
Man, that's it. That's the best.
Yo.
Best
Yeah.
compliment ever.
Yo.
Thank you. I hope you have the best night and I'll talk to you again one day.
Yes, I love that. Thank you, my
All right.
Sage.
All right.
Mwah.
Peace out, my friend.
Bye.
Bye.